all over his face matted down from sweat. I sit there in the footwell, staring up at him, gripping into the seat as my head knocks back and forth against the glove compartment. After a few minutes
Well,
of... Go ahead.
no. I clicked too fast and I was on the next line. Sorry.
After a few minutes of erratic driving and swerving, I gather my wits enough to speak.
Well, what are you doing?
Brian's eyes flick down at me, then back up to the road before he shakes his head. He does it slowly, like he can't believe something. But he doesn't say anything, at least not for a while. Then, after what could have been anywhere from 2 minutes to 20 minutes, he speaks.
Can you tell me the truth, boy?
I sit there, quietly, contemplating, making a jump for his door, to open it and tumble out into the desert. If I wasn't injured badly enough, or if I even survived that, for that matter, maybe I could make a run for it.
Yep. Chase Hunter, known cross-country champion. Wait, what? What truth?
What's going on in this town?
Oh my God.
I squeeze my eyes shut and let my forehead thump against the seat. But only for a moment, since I want to be able to keep an eye on Brian.
I already told Duke you were there. I think maybe physically, but with your drugs, who knows if you're ever there mentally?
Brian grunts as he continues to stare out the windshield, clearly thinking about something. Wow, that's new.
Yeah, Brian unlocked a new skill, thinking. Skill tree unlocked. All right. I can't help you or anyone here, Brian. I'm just trying to find a way out.
That gives me an idea.
Wait. I might know a way to get out of here. If you let me go, I'll tell you.
As soon as that comes out of my mouth, I wonder if I've made a mistake. Brian doesn't need to let me go to get me to tell him what he wants. I'm alone here with him. He can do whatever he wants to me. I'd probably tell him whatever he wanted to hear. But he surprises me with what he says next.
Vaping isn't gonna fix any of this. We're all still gonna see the same.
I wait, but he stays quiet. It takes me another minute to work up the courage to ask.
See what?
You know exactly what.
He screeches at me in his high-pitched voice, and the truck swerves precariously. I can imagine the tires sliding off the road for a moment before Brian corrects it.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
He says more gently, taking deep breaths to calm himself, then looks down at me.
Don't you?
I swallow hard, wanting to find the right answer, but unsure of what that might be.
Because I'm sure Brian is dreaming about Sydney and spiders all the time. And all right, like when Duke saw something on the ceiling in the diner.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. It's something that Brian saw with me. He lets out a cold guffaw.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, Otto. That.
The truck takes another hard turn, and I brace myself in the well. The swerves and turns are becoming more frequent. I can't really see out the window, but I'm pretty sure we're heading into the mountains. But that creature Was that creature thing going to attack us? Should I warn Brian?
But we've all been seeing a long time. Even before this crazier shit started a few days back.
Brian glances down at me once again.
Haven't you seen stuff here?
My mind immediately thinks back to when I was a kid. I'd seen plenty of things, plenty of horrible things. But the psychiatrist had said that was normal, that sometimes kids hallucinate. I notice that Brian's not wearing his seatbelt, and I start to toy with the idea of grabbing the wheel. Again, I might be killed. It would at least stop Brian from taking me wherever he's taking me. It might even be better to die.
Maybe, but my parents, my friends, they haven't really seen stuff.
Except Jenna, and now TJ and Carl, after all this started. Brian grinned with his crooked, missing teeth.
Seems we only see there's a reason to. I don't know what it is either. But from what I've seen, it's a combination of experience and being an echo.
The truck is slowing down a little now as we start taking sharper turns. Brian's calmed down at least, but that also means that we're definitely deep in the mountains at this point, the road having turned to gravel.
When I was a kid in Peyton, I didn't see shit, even though I had a pretty childhood. My mom left when I was 6 because my dad was a piece of shit. But you know, she's leaving me with him. Anyway, you know where my dad.
I don't say anything until Brian looks back down at me expectantly.
Where?
Brian cackles and it sends a chill up my spine.
That aliens are taking her.
I press myself deeper into the well, wishing I could just disappear into the floor.
I think he must have been drunk, or high, or both. But it stuck with me, you know?
I nod, trying to keep the bear happy as he drives along the road, or along a road so curvy it seems impossible in my mind.
Then, when I was a teenager in 87 or so, I got myself a boyfriend. Well, we kinda hated each other. He talked too much, but he was... And the only faggot I knew. So I came here every other week or so. But then, something weird happened on my second or third trip out here. I remember the moon was red that night because the forest fires out west. And I kept looking at it. And that's when I saw a flying saucer. Like one cartoon with lights and a dome thing on top. I couldn't believe it. Floating through the sky. And you know, even though it looked new,
Brian takes a big wide turn, and the truck slows more and more until it comes to a rumbling halt. My ears ring in the silence as Brian continues to stare out into the night, the headlights lighting up his face.
I knew I saw it. And I just knew it.
Brian finally looks down at me again.
That night, and almost every night after, I'd wake up and couldn't move, and aliens would be around my bed. And there was this one alien that I knew was my mom. She didn't look like my mom. She looked like an alien. But I just knew it was her. Things to me, sometimes to my mouth and eyes and nose, but usually to torture me and
Brian chuckles, still staring at me.
good, and I blamed my boyfriend for it, for bringing me to Echo, because I was sure that's where the evil came from. I outed him that year, and he had to leave town because of it.
The massive bear shakes his head.
Didn't stop the dreams, though.
Brian puts the truck in park, then shuts off the engine. We sit there in the darkness and silence, and even though I'd just emptied my bladder, I feel like I'm gonna piss myself again.
Never told anyone that before.
I don't say anything as I just breathe through my mouth, trying to make as little sound as possible.
There's something fucked up in this town that makes us see things, feel things from our past. Duke told me about it. Said it's been happening a long time. But he thinks there's a way to fix it.
Brian suddenly opens the door and jumps out. He slams the door hard enough to make my ears pop. For about 5 seconds, I will myself to move, to run, to open his door and sprint into the night. But my body refuses to move, and before I know it, the bear is yanking open my door and grabbing me by the wrist.
And if you help me out with this, we can be done good.
He pulls me out roughly. My legs are like rubber when he sets me on the ground, but he holds me up easily with his paws on my arms.
Can you promise me to help? Then I'll let you go, and we'll be free of the evil, okay?
All I can do is nod dumbly.
All right. It's gonna be okay, Otto. I promise.
I bet. Brian transfers his iron-like grip on my wrist and starts to pull me along. I stumble after him, weakly, trying not to trip in the darkness. Brian stops next to the truck bed and starts to rummage around inside. I feel like I'm gonna pee again.
That is just the one thing on Chase's mind constantly. It's just his pee.
Yep, piss everywhere. He's just gonna helicopter it.
All right. What do you need me to do, though? Probably some, cast a spell or use my honor magic.
Brian
I
finally
need you to die. Sorry.
Brian finally pulls something out, and it looks shiny and heavy. I open my mouth to scream, but that's when a burst of light comes out of one of the ends of it. It's a maglite. I stare at it, gaping stupidly. Brian sweeps the beam of light around. All around us is gravel, sagebrush, and some cacti. I have no idea where we are.
So before I do Brian's line, I'm just admiring how they have like that big gash where he got shot on his next to his nose.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It's
is
like,
that new? I didn't even notice.
Yeah, that's completely new. It's like, oh, he's an ugly brown bear, but now he's got this big gash on his nose where he just got his ass shot.
Yeah, because he's a meth addict. He's losing all his hair.
Yeah, well, no, it's like he's got all those gashes or all those patches all over his body. Like that's from the meth. That's from the meth, but
Mm-hmm.
right next to his nose.
Yeah,
it's like
I
this
saw it.
hole. It's like, oh, that's where he got shot in like a previous episode.
Yep.
I need to get something, and it's in a place that's too small for me to fit to squeeze into. I need your help to get it, okay?
Okay, but what is it? Perhaps evidence that I could use that I could hand to the state? Hmm?
Hmm.
Brian ignores me, looking around. He seems to settle in a direction and sets off, pulling me along with him.
Anyway, it makes me think. All these ghosts and UFOs and monsters people see in the woods, I think they're all connected somehow.
Yeah?
I focus on trying to keep the bear happy, pretending to be interested in his ramblings. Meanwhile, we're not even on the trail, just pushing through thick brush and sharp rocks.
Yeah, like Becco are everywhere in the world. Some small like a house, some huge like a town.
That makes sense.
No, it doesn't. None of this makes sense. But I have to focus on getting away from the bear. I know I should have made a run for it back at the car, but there's no helping that now. We walk for maybe 100 yards. As we do, the land starts to incline and becomes steep. Brian even slips up a few times, and I'm worried he's going to fall on top of me. Each time he manages to catch himself, then yank me up after him. After a few minutes of huffing and puffing, we've reached a bit of an outcrop with some large boulders. Brian lets go of me and clambers up the side of one of them before I can even think of running. And, before I can even think of running, he's turned around and grabbed me up by the scruff. I squeak as I'm lifted into the air, feeling like a pup again, where I'm set down beside next to the bear. Brian looks around, keeping a hold of my wrist as he does. After some stomping and looking around with his flashlight, he seems to find what he's looking for. He brings us up to the edge of a boulder, then lifts me up again, this time by the wrist. I kick around for a moment more before he lowers me slowly into a dark, spacious hole. I start to wonder if it's going to go down for a while, and I panic before my feet touch down on soft, cold dirt. Musty, cold air wafts from the back space in front of me. From the black space. Immediately, Brian drops down next to me, snatching up my paw again. He shines a light into the dark patch in front of me, and I see what looks like a narrow tunnel burrowing into the side of the incline we're on.
What is that?
Brian grunts and starts to pull me into the opening, but I pull back. Brian yanks me hard, and I feel like he's almost dislocated my shoulder. I yelp loudly. Brian hisses at me as he turns sideways to better fit into the tunnel.
It's the mine, you idiot!
What?
I look back at the opening, back towards Echo, gently illuminated by moonlight.
I thought it was sealed. Like there can't be secret entrances into a giant mine that goes under the entire town. I mean, that would be crazy.
So, true story. Fun story, I guess. Fun not for anyone. There was this. I think it's in like Poland somewhere. I think it's in like the Slavic nations. But there's this town. And it does have like this huge mine network underneath of it. And it's a complete maze down there. So every single year, like, kids will go down into that mine and get horrendously drunk. And then just, instead of wandering out of it, they'll wander further deeper into it. and then they're found months and months later. So, children and ladies, gentlemen, furries, everybody who's watching this, don't go down into mines.
And if I could add on to that,
Go for it.
that also includes Northern California, where they're currently rebuilding the park in my town, and so they're clearing a bunch of stuff, behind it, and in like a little valley that goes along with it, and they keep finding more and more mine entrances from the 49 Gold Rush
No,
Yep.
wow.
that they're having to seal for safety purposes. Yeah.
Yep.
That also includes Missouri, which is just full of caves and everything
Yep.
that probably have tons of secret entrances. So don't go down there.
Yeah, don't.
You might find Billy the Kid or someone just hanging out.
Yeah, like the reality is that after you go about 30 or so feet into a cave or a mine, it is completely pitch black. You cannot see anything. There is no light. If there is, the moment you take a turn or do anything that's basically just going to make it so that the light isn't just shining straight in, it is going to be absolutely black. No light whatsoever. And so you need flashlights. And a lot of people who go down into mines, they will just bring like a normal flashlight, one, and if anything happens to that flashlight, good luck ever finding your way out. So, and I mean, that doesn't seem like a problem until you realize that it's entirely possible that there's just a hole in the ground on one of the paths that might go straight down like 200 feet. And if you fall into it, you're dead. So, I mean, it's way more common than you'd think. But the biggest problem is going to be that it gets really cold underground. Like, stupid cold. You die of hypothermia underground. And a lot of the time you have to squeeze through really tight passages, so you're always touching stone. So it's really dangerous. It's incredibly easy to get stuck as well. And if there's no one who can help you, you're dead. So stay out of mines. If you do want to go underground, join a spelunking club. That's what it's called. And they will happily take you into caves and give you the gear that you need, and it'll be great. They'll take you to show caves and stuff. And if you have any scuba diving stuff that you want to try, do not do it in caves. Cave diving is by far one of the single most dangerous things you can do in life. So do not do that.
You'd probably be safer trying to fist fight a bear.
I mean, yeah, there potentially depends on the bear. But if you guys want to find out how scary cave diving can be, I think Mr. Ballin and Scary Interesting, I'll have lots of videos on those. But yeah, and there's another one who I don't remember their channel. It's two cave divers. One guy looks like he's a bit older. The other guy looks like he's potentially a bodybuilder. And they talk about cave diving a lot because they are cave divers. But anyway, just don't go into caves if you don't know what you're doing, because it's very easy to get trapped. And literally, if you're deep in a cave, you can scream as loud as you want and no one on the outside will ever hear you. So you either get to freeze to death, starve to death, or dehydrate to death. All three of those are horrific and terrible if you don't cut yourself and bleed out. Or fall to your death, so don't do it. It's super dangerous.
Bleeding out would probably be the best way to go, because then you just kind of get tired and fall asleep, I think.
Yeah. You kind of get that. Well, I don't even know if you get the feeling of like carbon dioxide building up in your system. It probably feels like something, but I've never been that low on blood before, so I don't really know. But yeah, it's dangerous. Well, we'll put it that way. If you do, for some reason, are in one of those towns where there is a mine, or there is an entrance to somewhere, and you really, 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 really want to go in there, buy like a ball of twine, tie it off somewhere, and then just like unspool the twine to give you a guideline out. They use that in cave diving a lot, but just so you know you can get out. And if it seems like something that's unstable, don't go down it. So, yeah. Avoid caves unless you really know what you're doing, and bring like 4 or 5 flashlights, even if it seems like it's overkill. You know, you never know if 4 of your 5 flashlights are going to stop working. But anyway, Brian, go for it.
It is. It's a back entrance. Duke told me about it years ago. Said his family's known about it for decades.
We push through for a while until we come to another tunnel, this one twice as wide as the one we were just in. It branches to the left and the right. Brian stands there for a moment, inhaling deeply as he looks around.
Hang on. It's been a while.
I can't help myself from blurting out.
You don't know where to go? I mean, it's not like this is a confusing place.
I expect him to hit me or something, but he ignores me. Finally, he pulls me to the left. The idea of being trapped in here with Brian, lost in a mine, is more terrifying than anything that's happened in this town so far.
I just think it's funny, the idea of like Brian pulling you to the left. It's just, we need to go right.
Yeah, but he goes left.
He's so stupid. He doesn't know his left from his right.
It's like, Brian, you're supposed to hold, you can hold up your hand and it'll make an L, right? And he's like, oh, and he holds up his right hand and it's like, it's an L.
That's not what an L looks like. That was a lie.
The hair is so musty and dry, I feel like coughing and sneezing at the same time. But I try to hold it in so I don't upset Brian. We walk around for another 10 minutes or so, trying a few more turns. I try to memorize the mounts. I try to memorize the route in case I'm able to break free, but after 5 or so branches, I realize that I can't remember the second or third. Brian suddenly speaks up, nearly making me jump in the darkness.
After a while, I stopped seeing aliens.
His grip is tight, and I can feel that the circulation to my paw is cut off. It's like it's just a mass of pins and needles at this point.
Now, I just see people.
What kind of people? People you know? Do you see dead people? Ooh.
I see dead people.
I try to keep Brian talking while I think. At some point, he's going to have to let go of me again, and that's when I'm going to have to make a run for it, no matter what. Because you probably saw which direction we drove off in, and he probably went to Leo to get the car. But at this point, I doubt they're going to be able to find us, at least not in time. We went into the mountains, probably through some back road that none of us even knew existed. Then Brian took me through hundreds of yards of desert to find a tiny opening behind some boulders. There's no way they're going to find me here. I'm on my own. Aren't they? Okay, so they're mammals, right? They're like dog people, right? Can't they just like sniff out Brian's horrific stench and find them?
Yeah, well, they should.
Do you think?
Especially
Or they're
Leo.
going to need some kind of super detective.
Yeah, I'm just imagining Leo. He's just down on all fours, head down, ass up. He's just sniffing the dirt, and he's like, "Chula, go this way."
Yeah, unfortunately, he doesn't have Legoshi level skills. It's like I can smell Louis from 1,000 yards.
I think I remember one of them in one of these routes, like having really good smell, like having really good, like a really good sense of smell. Is that
Yeah, it kind of comes and goes depending on if they want to make a joke. To my knowledge, I don't think they've ever used it seriously.
Hmm. That makes sense. Okay, Brian, go for it.
Well, I see just one person, but that person changes every now and then.
Brian pauses, looking into a narrow opening in the tunnel wall, even more narrow than the first passage.
Depending on who it was I knew last.
Before I can
I
figure...
last,
God.
sorry. Depending on who it was I last knew.
Before I
Okay.
can figure out what he meant by that, I'm shoved hard, forced into the passage in front of Brian. It's just wide enough that I can walk straight, my shoulders nearly touching both sides. Brian, on the other hand, has to suck in and move sideways, grunting and cursing and making all kinds of noises. Brian's let go of me as he tries to pull himself through, though he keeps knocking into me and sending me forward. I could try to escape, but I have the feeling that that doesn't exist ahead of me. In fact, it feels like I'm being trapped. I can't explain it, but I start to get the terrible feeling that something awful is waiting for me at the end of this passage. And then I start to smell something. It's old, and almost covered up by the dust and mustiness, but it's definitely there. Sweet and sick. Something rotting. It feels like ice water is poured down my back and I freeze, only to be given a shove by the bear behind me. I fall forward into a wider opening. The smell entombs me, and I know without looking that I'm surrounded by death. I lay there on the floor, not moving, listening to Brian as he tries to squeeze through the opening. I can remember years ago when I was maybe 12, walking along the dirt road back home after hanging out with Carl. On the side of the road I saw some roadkill, and just as I passed by I could see the white maggots wriggling through the fur. The smell for that single moment was almost unbearable, and I gagged and ran past. And while the odor in here is a bit more faint, it's almost exactly the same. I hear Brian finally shift free from the exit, and he shines a light back down on me. I know I should run. I know I need to get the fuck out of here. I know I should be fighting like hell. Because I know what's coming. Is this what it's like for people who get kidnapped or murdered? People wondering why they didn't fight harder or run when they had the chance. I know I should have ran the moment we stopped in the truck. But right now, it's like I'm stuck in ice. My frantic thoughts are interrupted as Brian grasps me by the back of the shirt and pulls me back up to my feet. I'm not able to stand and just sort of crumple down next to him. The bear grunts and just drags me along into the little opening that we're in, dropping me against the wall. As Brian fumbles with the flashlight, I get a glimpse of my surroundings. It's small, maybe 15 feet long and 10 feet wide. It's narrow enough that Brian takes up most of the space, and I'd be hard-pressed to get past him. I draw my knees up to my chest and hug them, feeling numb. God, you're such a useless piece of shit. I watch Brian lean over something against the wall. It looks like two polished pieces of wood. Brian tips the flashlight down, and I see that those pieces of wood are attached to a shovel and a pickaxe. Brian grabs the pickaxe, and for a heart-stopping moment, I think he's going to turn to me. Instead, he reaches into his pockets and pulls out something small and rectangular. It's not until he opens it and shines his flashlight onto it that I see it's some kind of small notebook. The bear looks at the notebook, then back up at the little cave we're in. The silence is almost unbearable, and I feel the need to say something, if only to fill that silence.
Okay, just as a quick little side note to everybody, this is one of the most important rooms in the entire Echo universe, and you'll see it many more times if you do more readings. All right, so what? What are you doing?
You know exactly what he's doing. Brian ignores me as he continues to search for something. I whimper softly in the back of my throat.
Please.
About to be murdered, and you just beg like a little bitch.
Shut up.
I can't help it as I hiss through my teeth at that goddamn voice. I don't need to hear it, especially now. Brian stiffens and turns around.
What?
I shake my head, squinting and unable to see his face as the bear turns the light on me.
Nothing. I just.
No. You were talking to something. You see someone?
No, I don't know.
I shut my eyes against the lights and only see blood red. Brian chuckles and my vision goes back to black as he takes the light off me.
I was the same way as you. Let me tell you something, though. Ignoring it ain't gonna make it go away.
Brian finally stops scanning the ground and crouches down. It takes me a moment to realize what he's looking at until he reaches down and picks it up. A smooth stone. Brian looks at it for a moment, thinking. He drops it off the side and looks back down at his book.
Daniel. 19. Ferret. He was the smallest, I think. Should be enough room.
Brian shines the light back down at the ground for a moment, and seems to make up his mind as he sets the butt of the flashlight on the ground. It brightly lights up the ceiling, giving us a dim yellow glow. Brian eyes me for a moment, positioning himself so he can watch me while also doing his work. Crouching over, Brian starts breaking through the hard surface of the dirt with the pickaxe, grunting with each stroke. He can only do little short swings, the ceiling too low for Brian to even stand up straight. At this point, the smell of Brian has almost overwhelmed the stench of death. I guess it's one of the few things I don't mind the smell covering up. Why aren't you at least trying to escape? Because he's in the way. Because you're a coward. Why the fuck are you talking to me now? I thought you left. I never left. You know that. You felt me even after you left the town. I shouldn't have come back. Probably not. I'm going insane. Brings back memories of my old life. I'm going insane and it's bringing back all of my old demons. No. I think it's because you're in the mine. I think you figured out that it's the source of everything, haven't you? The voice that I've been trying to ignore all week has changed. It's not vague or insidious anymore. It's more natural, like a real person. More like what I used to hear when I was a kid. Well, I was a real person. Sometimes I even doubt I am that person. I chuckle and I feel the back of my brain itch. More like what do you call it? A simulation. It waits for an answer, but I don't want to talk to it. Oh, stop pretending I'm not here. You can feel me. You've felt me looking over your shoulder since you got here. I let my head thump against my knees, closing my eyes. Well, really, ever since Sydney. Just ignore it. But I can understand. Even I feel as though something is controlling me. It's the oddest thing.
Hey,
I snap my head up, jumping as I feel the bear staring at me.
the hell are you mumbling?
Nothing.
Brian chuckles again and reaches across to the other wall, grabbing the shovel. He starts digging up a loose patch of dirt in front of him.
Yeah. Keep it to yourself, I guess. But like I said, you ain't the only one.
Brian gestures behind him with a thumb, towards the ground. I look and see nothing except for a few stones on the ground.
After Rachel back there, things got way, way worse than aliens for me. I saw her at night, crawling on my ceiling, poking out from under my bed, staring at me from my window, watching me pee.
Just to move the plot forward. Brian grunts as he digs the shovel deep, then lifts, turning a pile of dirt out to the side.
So did Duke. Drove him crazy. Turned him into a speed addict. Not that I mind. He was always my most reliable customer. But his story progressed. She watched him pee too.
The sick, sweet smell starts to grow again, and it's starting to become overpowering. I feel like I should keep him talking, get him comfortable, and buy myself more time. Should you, though?
Who's Rachel?
Duke's wife.
I try to remember what I know about Duke's marriage, aside from the fact that he isn't married anymore. I realize then that I do remember Rachel, but just barely. She was only around while I was in grade school and was pretty nice as far as I can remember.
Didn't he divorce her? Because that's clearly what we're implying with all of this, Chase. That he peacefully divorced her and she just moved away.
Brian shrugs as he stops digging, resting on the handle.
I guess he sorta did. But I mean, she was dead by then. All because of me. I made them get divorced. I was the third guy. They
Because
watched
I
my
want to
stuff.
call to myself. I'm sorry.
They watched my stuff, but didn't have the money. Oh wait, they wanted my stuff, but didn't have the money. So I cut them a deal of drugs instead. I mean, I can't say I all annoying and whiny, but she let me go way farther than Duke ever did. So I was with her.
It's not hard for me to picture what exactly that fucking was.
Then one day, I guess I went too far.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Okay, sorry, you guys cut out there.
Then, one day, I guess I went too far. She died, and we buried her right there in my trailer.
Brian points more specifically at a rock sitting against the other side of the wall. The big bear starts to dig again, more vigorously, lengthening the patch he's working on.
But I didn't see her right after I buried her. Maybe a week later.
The bear shakes his head and laughs mockingly.
You think that stopped me from doing it again. But you know, when that last breath came out of her and she sort of shuddered on the table,
Brian glances up at me.
blew my load without even touching it. Made me wonder how good it could be with a guy if it was that good with
You want him to keep talking? Brian pauses in his sudden spurt of digging and looks up at me again.
probably wondering why I'm telling you this, thinking I'm crazy. But I don't know. Feels good to tell someone. You're like my own therapy otter.
The bear looks back down at the hole he's made. The smell coming out of it is overpowering. It's so overpowering I'm on the verge of gagging again.
I don't see her anymore, though. It changes with each one.
7 stones.
And it'll probably change again.
And with that, the bear comes at me. The space is so small that it takes him only 2 steps. I scream and cover my face. Coward. I try to fold up into as tight of a ball as I can, but before I know it, Brian has me by the back of the shirt. He drags me over until I'm kneeling next to the hole. I can definitely see a grave now. You already knew. Because I can see the bones poking through the dirt, the bits of blue and white cloth that were its clothes. You mean Daniel, the 19-year-old ferret.
Just, I feel like me telling you all this. I feel like me telling all this to you, and me being nice to you so far. Maybe don't come back after me. Just move on.
I feel Brian move around behind me, then press something cold into the back of my head. A gun. I guess Brian probably has plenty of those.
I'm doing the town some good after all.
Anti-chaste initiative. It was signed in town hall during that meeting you missed. How?
I blurt out, my mind racing, trying to think of something, anything to get out of this. Brian does pause, though.
Oh, what?
How is this helping anyone? Why are you doing this other than all the reasons you've been clearly laying out?
Yeah,
I know.
a few seconds go by, and I'm sure I'm about to hear the crack of the pistol. The last thing I'll ever hear. You won't actually hear that. It's too close. Then Brian sighs.
Flynn was right. You need to deduce, Otter. Again. Again. I feel like I should tell you everything, so you know, so you don't have to come back. But, Duke, he said this all started when you came back.
I told you I have no idea why.
My voice rises in pitch as I start to panic. Duke had already tried to kill me, even after we tried to convince him that I had nothing to do with any of this. Not any of this? Are you sure of that? I feel Brian set his feet behind me, and I can picture him getting ready to pull the trigger. I'm going to die. This keeps happening, doesn't it? This hysteria.
I'm sorry. Remember, this is for the good of the town.
To me, as long as this town holds its breath, letting all the evil build up until it has let it all out in one big go. Brian grips onto my head fur, pressing the barrel of the gun to the back of my head. And you brought a lot of guilt and evil with you back to this town. Maybe that was enough to push it over the edge again.
Rest easy.
So, in a way, it is your fault, isn't it? My eyes are watering, and I don't know if it's from Brian's grip on my fur or if I'm crying.
Help me!
I say it to you.
Okay, I have a idea. What if we just do nothing for like 5 minutes?
Well, I kind of, need to pull a chase before we can move this along.
Yeah, let's just not click anything then. Well, the one button they give us. Let's just take a break.
Well,
Yeah, I can kind of use one.
I'm gonna quick save, and I guess we'll.
Yeah, just in case.
Should I go to like the be right back, or just leave it where it is? I figured there was supposed to be something where, like, if you didn't click it soon enough, you would just shoot him.
Well, we
The
tested
end.
it.
Yeah, we tested it.
That would actually be a funny mechanic if they had a timer.
Yeah.
So Finn, did you record the entire break or no?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Just in case there was something where, like, someone shot someone. I'm really hoping you didn't come back and just, like, start talking about things that rhyme with stick again. All right, so.
No.
Oh, for 5 straight minutes, yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
Nothing but racist
We were trying to make a
rants.
song for it.
We were doing racist rants. Yeah, actually, that should be the song. That should be the name of the song. Racist rants. Racist rants. 5 big minutes of racist rants.
Wow. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward. All right. We look to the right. I glance to my right and see something standing in the entrance to our little hollow. This is not a hollow. It's faint, either because of the dim lighting or because the thing itself isn't quite opaque. It's tall, white, and gangly, and its long fingers nearly touching the ground. Its face is heart-shaped. The whiteness of it interrupted by massive shiny black eyes in its face. It stands there, motionless, watching us. I stare back, open-mouthed. Brian must have taken notice because the next thing I know, the bear squeals. It's so loud and high-pitched that I wince. Brian lets go of me just as that thing moves. It seems to lean forward, gliding towards us, but the gliding is stilted like a film of half seconds missing from it. It flickers, seeming to turn transparent as it grows closer. The white fading to pink, then bright red. We're almost fun. Then a
Very careful. I'm hunting lions.
White red for a brief second before evaporating.
By the way, guys,
Burping.
go check out Isaac Arthur's channel, Futurism with Isaac Arthur. He has a speech impediment, but he talks about futurism and cool stuff all the time. Go check it out. The white fading to pink, then to bright red, for a brief second before reverting. I'm frozen, kneeling as I watch. Brian backs away, then promptly steps on the flashlight. The lighting careening sideways, and I look over to see Brian's foot slip on the cylindrical flashlight before his rump comes down hard on top of it. All light is extinguished, and I can't see the thing or Brian now. I hear him, though, as he lets out another screech of pure fear like a wounded animal. I hear something else, too. A voice that's so high-pitched, babbling something fast and senseless. It's like a tape recorder being rewound. Brian's screeching impossibly turns up a notch, and I instinctively move forward, away from the horrible sound, and I pitch into the hole. The smell engulfs me, and I can feel the hard, knobby things in the dirt around me. Where are we going?
Just taking a back road.
But this is going to be that lady. But we're leaving
Right.
the city.
Yeah? Well, I live
Okay,
outside
if I
the
could.
city. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think this is Daniel the ferret, because that's the one they were digging up. Just if you want to have that be a part of your voice. Sorry to interrupt.
You didn't tell me that. Well, let's just go back to the club. All right, pull the fuck over. Let me out. I said pull over. Where the fuck is the lock?
You best not be doing that.
Hey, get fuck off me. I gasp and scramble out of the grave, gagging uncontrollably. Once I'm out, I curl up on my side, drawing in my knees again. The horrible screeching and bizarre babbling language continue, though the sounds from Brian are more ragged now. Occasionally, the room flashes with light as Brian shifts around, but I face the wall, not wanting to look. Get up. I curl up tighter, just hoping that I wake up. You sniveling little shit. Get up. I press my face into the dirt. Trust me. There's far worse out there, and it's coming for you unless you get up and get out. I've given up.
We do another wait.
No, because it didn't work last time. Get up.
I have to pee again.
You force yourself onto your hands and knees and start crawling in the direction of the exit. The flashlight continues to be rolled